Okay, so first of all, let me just apologize for my sound because I am fighting some yuck right now and it's not making things easy for me. But we're going to continue with how the Bible and attending church can help me with divorce, or someone that you know that's divorced. We're going to start back up with 1 Corinthians chapter 7. We're going to go through verses 8 through 14. These particular verses may or may not be dealing with divorce, talking about marriage, not being married, things like that, widowed. But I'll cover a little bit about divorce with it. So, and again, I'm not an expert at this. I'm just reading the verses and, this is what this says, this is what this means, going from there. So let's start. So it's verse 8. Now to the unmarried and the widows, I say, it is good for them to stay unmarried as I am. And this is Paul talking. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. I think this is funny because the Bible just is real. It tells you how it is, and it's literally saying, if you can't control yourself and you need to get married rather than, sinning. And then verse 10, it says, to the married, I give this command, not I, but the Lord. A wife must not separate from her husband, but if she does, she must remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband. And a husband must not divorce his wife. It's very self-explanatory. So, verse 12, to the rest I say this, I not the Lord. If any brother has a wife who is not a believer, and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer, and he is willing to live with her, she must not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. Otherwise your children would be unclean, but as it is, they are holy. That's the first time I've ever really paid attention to that. So, I've not researched it, but it sounds to me that that's what they're saying. I would have to research a little bit more. But it says, and if a woman has a husband who is not a believer, and he is willing to live with her, she must not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. So I've never thought of it that way, but that's what it says there. Anyway, when we get to the part of talking about divorce, a lot of the things in the Bible are geared towards those that are married, and that's what 1 Corinthians chapter 7 is here too. It's talking literally about marriage, and there's a whole lot more to go through, but we're just going to take it in little snippets like this because otherwise it's just too much. But divorce is something very difficult to deal with, and the reason why it is because when you get married, you become one physically, mentally, spiritually, and you weren't technically designed to have to be divorced. Your kids were not designed to have to be in a divorced type situation. But for those of you that are, know that God can, resolve all that and fix it. I know people that have been divorced that were divorced for years, and they waited and waited and waited and waited, and finally they got someone that was godly and that they had mutual respect and love for them. But my suggestion is just pray, and as my husband always says, the best thing you can do is make yourself right with God, and then that relationship will follow. If you're just super hurt and you don't ever want to get married again, it says you don't have to. But don't be bitter. Bitter's not good. People are going to hurt you. Even the people that are the closest to you, they're going to hurt you. Love always gets hurt, unfortunately. And this is where you just have to dig in deep and trust in God. And know that He has something good out there for you. He does. And just give it to Him, pray, ask Him to help you. get into these scripture verses and read them and apply them to your life. It's just like I've said all the time. Jesus is always the answer. And it may not be your fault that you got divorced. It may not be your fault that you're getting a divorce. But just hang in there and cry out to Jesus. And I know that he will help you.